Today, the Saturn Bowl, the Ringed Saturn Bowl. The main method, our main project for Monday Methods today is this piece, and we're going to fill these cracks that are in here, and we're going to fill all the rings with resin. Now, I've done some studying on Saturn, and of course, I didn't turn my grooves exactly the way Saturn looks, and I'm going to go overhead there real quick so you can see the piece. Studying Saturn, it's got a big black area, which is no rings, okay? And then there's some colors. It's kind of brownish, blackish edge. There's a very distinct white line. Now, we don't have a white dye. I do have white resin, which is going to go in here. So this first one's going to be black. This one will be white. And then this outer band will be it's kind of a brown to taupe color, depending on the pictures you look at. So I've got a number of theories here that I want to work with. And I went out to the warehouse yesterday and I got some more goodies. And I've made up a batch for the black, and I made up a batch of things for the brown and a batch for the white. And the black area is space, right? Well, if I just put black dye in there, it would just be black. Well, in space, there are other planets out there floating around, and so I'm not trying to make an actual accurate representation of Saturn and its rings. We'll call it an artistic impression, because I also still want to have the beautiful wood showing through on this. So I've got this idea that I want to put some texture and some possible planets or stars, glittery stuff in here. So I brought in some black resin tint. I brought in black spin gems, which are going to go in there. And then I brought black glitter. Yes, there is such a thing as black glitter. And silver glitter. And silver holographic. So that's going to be a mix. And what I'm going to do is fill, let me go back over here. I'm going to fill the ring with a mixture of the spin gems and all the glitters and powders. Then I'm going to add the resin to it. And I'm going to do the same thing for all the colors. I've got spin gems in the brown. I've got spin gems in the white. Powders, pearl powders in the white resin tint as well. So the first thing I need to do, though, is I want to fill this big crack here. Let's see. Go that way. There you go. Now, these cracks, they could be filled with, say, CA and a powder, ground up chips and whatnot. But I'm going to go, I want to see how close one of my brown resin tints matches. So I'm going to use the gel resin and some color. And we're going to fill these with the epoxy instead. That'll make it nice and strong as well. Now, this piece I did seal, and I sealed it yesterday with the RU20 water-based urethane. It's a water reducible urethane. So it's been sealed. So hopefully I won't get any kind of bleed out from the different colors. So I used that, and I also used it on another piece that I'm going to show you later. That's over there from a couple of weeks ago that I dyed, and it was end grain hollow form, and I dyed it pink. So I got a couple of things on the list today. So if there's any questions, as usual, you guys holler at me. I've made my life doubly difficult because I now have two mice to try and drive and remember which one goes to which computer, which makes it fun. And I'm also monitoring some changes I made. I've made some changes to the computer that's doing the stream. You know me, I'm always trying to get this right and get it to stop buffering and dropping frames and things like that. So anyway, first thing I want to do is I want to mix up a little bit of gel resin. And let me go to, well, I don't want to go to the overhead yet. I had all the stuff in the house last night, keeping it warm. I don't have heat out here. You would think you don't need a heat out here. You don't really, unless you want to work with resin. So it's room temperature from in the house, 70 degrees. And with any of these products, and especially the gels, before we use them, we do want to stir them up, okay? I have had a couple people say they had trouble with it, And I asked them, did they stir it? Did you stir it before? They said, well, no, I stirred it when I mixed it. Well, we need to stir it up beforehand. So I'm going to switch to the overhead now so that you can see, I'm just in here, and this is really thick. There you go. And so get in here and just mix it up the best you can. Sometimes you'll find there'll be a very, very light-bodied separation of the chemicals, the fluids on top. This one looks like it's pretty well mixed, but always give it a good stir. Now granted, it's not easy to stir a gel, and you can see how thick this is. And we don't need much today. That's going to be the trick. We're just filling those little cracks right there. You can see again, I'm trying to show you those cracks just really aren't very big. I also put the cameras on automatic today since it's not turning anything. There you go. There we go. So hopefully the focus will adjust. So it's not a real big fill. So a little more stirring on this one, and then I'll switch and stir up the main body. All right, we're going to let that one sit. I'm going to give this one a mix. Now this is even thicker. And again, I don't see any separation, so having it nice and warm, room temperature, it does like to be around the 70-degree mark to work the best. Okay. The hardest thing is mixing a little teeny bit, which is all we really need. We mix it by volume, not by weight. So that's what the syringe is for. We're going to use the syringe, and it might be a little bit difficult. I finally wore out my big one. And I'll switch back over to the front camera here in a second. I just want you to see the consistency that we're working with the gel resin, which stays in the cracks and doesn't run. Okay? So getting down in there, pulling the bottom up to the top. Trying not to make a mess over the edges of the rim so the lid will seal again really well. Okay, let me go back out front here. Alright, so I got my handy dandy little mixer cups here. Let me think about this, because I'm going to get this dirty. Which one do I want to do first? I'm going to pull my 2 parts resin. It's 2 to 1, 2 parts A to 1 part B. Okay, so let's see if I can get this to come up in here. As it pulls a little vacuum, come on, draw up in there. I don't need a lot. And it is. It's thick and slow, but it's there. So I got 2 milliliters. And I'm going to push this back up. Because we do want it to be accurate. And the syringe is the most accurate way to do this. So as that drips off, I'm going to switch back over so you can see. And I'm going to pick this up. I know this is overkill, but right in the syringe, right to 2 milliliters, nice and accurate. Okay? Yeah, I know. I'm going to get the remote over here one of these days where I can just not have to reach over there. So, I mean, this isn't much because we're just doing a little teeny bit here. I'm going to go boom, and just squirt that in there. Just what's in the syringe, and then I'm going to take a paper towel and clean off the end of my syringe, which I have hiding over here. Alright. Because I don't want to contaminate my gel, and what I might do, just because of what I've got going on here, unless I can get this really clean, I don't really want to stick this into the gel, if you know what I mean. So what I think I'll do is I'm just going to take another cup. I'm going to take my stir stick out and just let some fall into this little cup. Okay, that's way more than I need, but I don't want to contaminate my main batch. All right. So and now I just need 1 of these. And There's 1 milliliter, right? So I've had somebody argue with me one time that you couldn't get a good mix. You couldn't mix very small amounts accurately. Well, you can. Just get you a good syringe, the right size, and we're going to come and just squirt that right in there, okay? Now, yes, I'm going to sacrifice that little bit because I don't want to put it back in my container, all right? And I can live with that. I could have taken less as I did that. But there's my mix, there's my amount for just to fill in this little crack, right? We don't need much, just a teeny, teeny bit. And I can clean this up with acetone here after a little bit. Not going to take the time to do it now. We'll just set that over there. And depending on which mouse I need to scroll, okay. You need a foot pedal camera selector. You're right. I needed a production guy. But actually, like I say, Art, I've got an iPad over here that connects to that switcher and could sit right here and I could change it, and it's going to be on the lathe. It's always something. It's always something. So let me clean these off, seal this back up. And I'm going to put these in here. The resin is essentially the same between the liquid resin and the gel. So I'm not worried about using the sticks. I can reuse for the different gel, for the different resins. Put that out of the way. I have been busy getting ready for the woodworking shows. 1st of January is going to come all too soon, I'm afraid. I think this stick will throw away. I hope y'all are coming out to the woodworking shows this year. We start in Baltimore on the 3rd of January, the first show. All right, so my idea for this one, again, was this wood is fairly dark, and what I brought 2 of these, red oxide and a brown oxide, and that's got a little reddish tint to it. So I think I'm going with just a drop. Just a drop. You need to shake this too. Always shake your colorants, because they will separate over time. Jerry, how you doing, buddy? I see you're going to Michigan next year. Now you see that? So even though I shook that, that was just clear that came out of there. Let me put you to the overhead here. So when I put that colorant in, it was mostly clear. So I need a little more shaking in there. Merry Christmas to you too, Jerry. Hope you're doing well over there, up there in Carolina land. I always enjoyed Christmas when I lived in western North Carolina up in the mountains and Smokies. I always enjoyed Christmas in that area. Let's see if we can get a better. There we go. Just a little tick in there. All right. I also changed my overhead camera angle, so I got to get used to where that's at these days. Now, I'd rather add a little more if I need to make my color. I can always put more in, but I can't take it out. And what I'm going to do is mix this up, and then I'm going to kind of hold my stick over here close to the wood. I want a little more. I'm a little translucent, so another little drop in there. That's looking pretty good. That's not too bad. Right there. See that color coming up? And we're going for that. All right. Okay. I think, let me scroll something over here real quick. Which mouse am I on? There we go. So this can be pretty straightforward. I think I will put a little tape on the back side. Looking for my black tape, but this will do. Just the upper section of this is a little big. So I'm going to back this up a little bit with a little painter's tape back in there, just to be safe. Okay. And this is going to be pretty straightforward. Like again, I said earlier, I've sealed this, so I'm not worried about it changing the color of the wood around it. It might sit on the surface, but we're just packing these and get just where you can see it there. Now I'm going to clean off the excess with a rag. I'm packing that in there. Again, we don't need very much. Okay. And I have not sanded this yet. So I'll sand off any of the excess after it's all dry. Myself another paper towel here. Wipe off a little of the excess. Keep things neat and clean because we're going to be working with our other colors here and our other resins. So if I bring this right up to the camera, you can see we've got a nice fill. Fill in the cracks. That's not going to run out. We don't have to worry about that running down. And I'll leave this little bit. This is going to be, got a 2-hour open time. So, you know, a 2-hour open time, when we get all done playing with this, this will still be usable. It won't have started to set up yet. It might be close. And if that has sagged any or soaked in, I'll have this over to the side, and I'll just put some more in there. So we'll set that over here with all the chuck jaws. That's a good place for it. All right, so that was really easy. Just mixing up a little bit of gel resin, fill those cracks. We're all good to go. Now, next thing I'm going to go ahead and work on is the rings. I'm going to go ahead and make a whole batch of resin here, and then I'll divide it up into the colors and the mixes as I go. So let's go ahead and mix up our resin batch. This is the Chromacraft 2000 LV. And I'm going to make plenty because I'm going to cast up another piece here today with whatever's left over. So 2 to 1. I've got my 2 for resin, 1 for hardener. Okay. Give the hardener a good shake. Now the resin doesn't shake very well, but we'll do our best. Okay. So I just fill to the line in the yogurt cup. Right there. I'll go back to the overhead here. Barry Demers, how are you, sir? Good to see you. I hope wherever you are, because I never know where you are, that you're ready to have a wonderful holiday. Now this won't really shake, as thick as it is. No, I can't see. You're correct, Barry. I can't see the YouTube. I don't have the multiple chat window open this morning. I was happy to get both channels finally running, and I have changed streaming provider. I'm testing out a couple different ones, so I'm on my second one, and I haven't figured out how to work up their multi-chat platform yet. but I will if I stay with it. So there's one half of A, and here comes the second half. A little bit more. Like I say, there's a line inside these yogurt cups. It's consistent, and so I fill everything right to that line, and I don't have to get crazy with measuring. I had a customer one time who said, "Hey, you know, I'm having trouble because it's just not setting up." And I said, "Well, how are you mixing?" He said, "Well, I measure it exactly, weigh it exactly." And I said, "Well, there's your problem right there, is that you're weighing." Come back to the overhead here. So now we'll just combine all these into our cup, and then we'll give it a good mix. Now I've got my gloves here. When it gets time to get messy, I'll put the gloves on. I try not to put them on before I have to, especially if I'm moving back and forth over to the camera switcher. And I was thinking about this last night, I may only try and wear one glove. And if I can not get where I'm messy at all, I won't wear any gloves. But you should wear gloves if you're going to get it on your epoxy. You can become sensitized to epoxy. I did years ago. I used to do a lot of canoe and kayak fiberglass work, and I got sensitized to resin for a while. It's since gone away, luckily. Let's get that scraped out. Number 2. So the weather here has been so crazy. Well, a couple weeks ago it was 45. Now it's going to be 70 today, which I'm not complaining because I've got a lot of things to do that are outside, and I'm not freezing out here. It's been a roller coaster. It's been up and down, which is one of the things about being this latitude, latitude or longitude? I always get my latitudes and longitudes confused. At this point in the south, let's go that way. Down in Florida, you don't really get the cold snaps. Here, we can still get down into the teens in the dead of winter on occasion, but getting down into the 30s. We've been in the upper 30s already this year. I'll toss both of those. And in goes our hardener. Now you may think I'm crazy working on this wonderful Harbor Freight butcher block top, but it's got a whole bunch of plastic, and it cleans off with denatured alcohol or acetone when I'm all done here at the end of the day. You're in Key Largo, Barry. Nice. All right. So we got that in there. Now I'm going to go switch over to my favorite mixer. Yes, I know. This actually adds some air to the mix, and I get it. But this is going to go in a pressure pot when we're done, and I'm not worried about it. But I know that I get a really good blend. So let me go back to the overhead here. And you'll see mixing with the Dollar Tree whisk. Because I like it because it allows me to scrape the sides really well. And it blends everything together. I've really never had a mix problem before mixing with this. Okay. And this one's starting to get about full. I see I got a little piece of black came off in there, but that's okay. We're going out in space with it, so it's not going to be a problem. It's time to go to Dollar Tree and get another one. And I'll have a whole buck in it. So I can't really complain about that. Okay, so there's my resin mixed. Now we'll set that off to the side. The next thing I want to mix up is, for the first ring, my black mix. And I was thinking about this yesterday, and I was coming up with ideas. You know how I am. A lot of things. I love to experiment. So I want some texture in this, because when looking at Saturn's rings, they're striated, they have striations. Now the black is just space, but the outer rings have striations, and even the space, like I was talking about at first the episode here this morning, I want a little texture in there. So I'm going to make a mix, and I don't know how much I'm going to need. All right? So I'm just going to estimate, and if I have a little extra, well, I'll put it in this other project that comes up after the fact here. I'm going to use black glitter. And the one thing I know for a fact is the glitter, as well as the spin gems and all, have a specific gravity heavier than the resin, so they will sink. They're going to sink down in the piece. And I'm just kind of eyeballing that. So what I wanted to do, or what I'm going to do, is I'm going to mix the glitters along with the stones so that they hopefully will be attached. Now here's a little silver holographic. I don't want to put a lot. That is the silver. This is actually silver pearlescent powder. And I'm going to mix it in here as well, because I don't really want the swirls. If I mixed it with the resin, I would get swirly silver lines, marks, and I don't really want the swirls. I just want a hint of it here and there. That's my goal anyway. And this is the black glitter. I'm going to put a fair bit of black glitter in. Okay. All right, so this is my black concoction. I'll save all this over here, and I might use the silver some more. Let me show you in the overhead what this is looking like. So you can see the shimmery in there. So I want to mix this up. And my hope is that the shimmery particles, the glitter, they all kind of hang with and stick to the stones. Get that? So you can see, kind of looks like twinkling in the light in space. That's my theory. A little bit of glitter in there. I kind of like that. So there we go. All right. Now, what's the next move? Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead. Have I ever told you that I just, you guys know me. I just I shoot from the hip a lot. Most people can't stand that. Doesn't bother me in the least. So I'm just going to go around and fill this. I may have to make another batch. I may not have to. And then I'll pack it down in there. And so one of the things about, well, how much resin am I going to need, right? Now, I started to dye this black first, but I didn't want the black dye, even though I sealed this, I didn't want the black dye to get up on this ring. So I was afraid that I might have it bleed, and I wasn't willing to take that chance. Okay, so it looks like I've got plenty mixed up here. And now I'm going to go around, and this is going to get turned after the fact. So I'm not completely done turning on this. But what I want to do, let's try this. Get that out of there. I'm trying to figure out how to level this. And it may not be perfect. We learn by trying new things. All right? And if this sits up on top, a little proud, that's okay. And if we don't try new things, we don't learn. One of the things I've gotten used to, especially because of the woodworking shows, is, trying things in front of people, in front of y'all. I'm not afraid to have something not work. Okay? That's okay with me. I mean, we would all like everything to work every time, but it just doesn't go that way. And if I, did these episodes and I filmed them and then edited out all the bad stuff, well, you'd only see all the perfectness. And, it's not always perfect. Looks like I want a little more in here. So I tried to give you a true representation of what really happens when you're trying these different projects and learning and experimenting. They may do what you want. They may be just the most fantastic thing you ever did. They may be less than stellar, if you know what I'm saying. Okay? Now, also, if you notice there, and I'll hold this up closer, and I'm not sure how this is going to turn out. It's part of the experiment. You see you see how I've left some of the natural wood there? Well, in reality, when you look at the pictures, you can see down through the piece, around Saturn, around the globe, around the planet. Oops. So I didn't want the black to go right up to it. I wanted the illusion possibly of seeing down on the piece, but I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work out. No, Barry, the stone it's polyester polymer. It turns great. It's real easy to turn. Doesn't dull your tools at all. And you want to leave it a little proud. You don't want to just see it. If you see it at all, like in this, you may or may not see it. Well, I don't know how much it'll show. It's gonna be fun to do. You want to cut it with the tools, and it enhances the look of the product. Okay, so I'm gonna just go around here, and this is gonna be an interesting little project. And I'm gonna get most of this off of here. Again, I'm not worried about exactly because I'm going to turn this down flush. I like that little light, so I'm going to I've got real fine powder in the bottom here. And, of course, I can't get that to be what... It's like padding for gold, you know, but except that it's going the opposite way. Well, I'll just go with that. So I'm going to save that over here. Now, I want to make up some black resin. So I'm going to take my resin cup. I got a whole stack of cups here this morning. I've got literally hundreds. I got trash bags full of these guys. You scroll over here. Little black resin, my black resin tint, right here. We'll give that a shake. I'm just going to take some from my main batch here, and I'm going to make up a black. Now, obviously, now that I have filled this circle with the resin, or with the stones, I don't need much resin. I won't need very much. How much? I don't know. We're going to find out. And everything is going to go into, and I need to spray something. I need to spray some mold release on something here real quick so it has a chance to dry before we're done. Let me do that while that's sitting. Don't mind me walking over here. Grab a little mold release. This is the ejected mold release. This is a McCalister's Deli. It's a big old glass. It's got the built-in tenon on it. And I got something to show you about resin and molds and all that, molding in general, that I'll get into afterwards. Something I discovered here in the last few days. Try not to fall over, Brad. Just a little tidbit that I found quite interesting. Okay, so let's pour off some of this, and I know I need a paper towel. I think I need to build a paper towel dispenser right here on the side of the table cart. All right, let's pour some of this off. Give it one more mix. Looks like she's mixed up pretty well. I'll bet you I don't need more than about that much. I'll bet you a little bit more. It'll go into another project anyway. It's here that we just sprayed for. Okay. Black resin tint. Get my paper towel, wipe that off. Oh, that's dry. I'm having fun. I'm having fun out here. So I want this to be fairly black, but not absolutely opaque. So change camera to the overhead. You'll see the black getting mixed up. Boom, instant black. Black goes a long way. It doesn't take much to get your, and you can see, you always test on the stick. If you can't see the stick, you know that you've got good coverage. So we'll mix this in real good. And then I'm just going to pour it into the stones. All right? This is not rocket science. Now, this would almost be a syringe kind of project, but we're not going to go there. But what I am going to do, before I get too far along, is I'm going to clean the rest of this off a little bit. Clean this out of here. Like I said, this is the first time I've done this particular kind of project like this. So a lot of it's figuring it out as we go. And I'm not worried about a little bit of this stone down in the bottom of the next color. But I don't want the big chunks down in there. All right. Better than the compressed. Can you imagine if you hit that with compressed air? What a mess that would be. Okay. So I'm thinking, I see I need just a holder cup over here. I'm just going to wipe that stick off and I'm going to drop it over here. And I'm just going to go ahead and pour around here. Start my pour. Now what I don't know is how long it'll take for this to work its way down in there. I could have mixed the stones into it, but I found that was really hard to pour. For an instance like this. So I'm taking this approach, and it may be the right one, it may be the wrong one. I see it's running out more than I thought it might. But I know that I'm going to turn away that rim. So this is where the glove comes in. Well, too late. Let's push that back up in there. Hey, you don't know till you go. I just don't want it running out excessively because I know it's going to start soaking down in there. Obviously, my feed rate might have been a little aggressive, as he laughs at himself. Because I want to make sure that this is done running and all that before I start on the next row. Although, you know, it's going to be on the top, but I want to make sure this isn't running over into this other one. You can see here it went ahead and soaked in. So it's just a matter of time, being a little more patient, when I'm pouring that. Fresh paper towel. I love trying new things. It's so much fun. Now we're getting a little handle on it. Starting to. So maybe I'll eat those words and say that maybe using a syringe would have been a good idea, and maybe that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and I've done mixing, so I'm going to try and suck some of this up in the syringe, and I'm going to try putting it in with the syringe, which will be much more controlled, in theory. So let me make sure I got this all herded up, and then I'm going to pull some of this up into the syringe and try again and come at it again to finish filling in what hasn't been saturated yet. Okay, so we got out of that tight spot, got ourselves out of trouble there. It's starting to drop down in. Again, like I said, I know I'm going to turn down the top face somewhat. So that black is up there will get turned away. So I'm not terribly concerned about that. Let me check and see if anything's in there. Let's see, we got new people. Good morning, Greg and Peter and Mary Alice. Hope you all are doing well. I'm having a ball out here today, making a mess and doing fun things. Let me let you see back over to the top there what we got going on. So I was a little aggressive on the first application of resin in there. So now I'm going to pull some up into the syringe and have a little more control, he says. And that'll mix with the gel resin that was in there. I'm not worried about that because it's the same basic resin. Okay. And I was going to think about zooming that in, but if I could reach the zoom. So, yes, the syringe is the way to go. Much easier to control adding the resin. Much, much easier. 100 times over. Use the syringe to add the resin to this. Because now I can just feed it in very slowly. I still got a little bit extra right there. It's not a perfect science yet. Let that one fill. There we go. Surprising how little resin it's taking to go and fill it. I'm going to just move these paper towels up here where I can get to them easier. Y'all don't mind seeing them behind me there, do you? I know you can't see them at the moment, but I'll just put them right there. So yes, it took very, very little resin to saturate this. So I'm just going to let this keep going in. I need to get a little bit right in, make sure my head's not in the way, right in here. Even if it runs up against the body there a little bit, that's all right. And again, I wanted these spin gems to be a little proud of the surface so that I had to cut through them to give it some texture. Okay. So I'm going to keep that. I'm going to keep going around here until this is not running over, and then we'll start on the next one. All right. Because I know that it's slowly working its way down in there. And, talking about the glove, yeah, so maybe I should be having a glove on, but I don't know, the dexterity, you can't quite feel the fluid in a glove like I can feel it in my finger right here. Okay. All right, so what have we learned here? We learned that we need to use the syringe. And so I'm going to clean that syringe out, just sort of. I need to have multiple syringes, but I don't have multiples with me right now. But I will do the best I can to clean this one out. Switch back over to here. Get myself a little denatured alcohol. Over here. It was ready to go. Give a little clean into my syringe. Alright, so that I don't cross-contaminate with my colors. Now the next groove is going to be the white groove, or the next band, if you will. It's going to be the white one. And I'm watching the piece here. I'm seeing where some black is still trying to run over, down where it's supposed to be. So we'll keep our little alcohol right there for cleaning things out. So you can get a lot of mileage out of your syringe. Okay, you can clean them up. Just don't think that resin makes them inoperable. Now that I moved the paper towels, I can't remember where I put them. Let's herd that back up. As long as it doesn't run over into the white, I'll be happy. So what I might do, I don't know, I'm crazy. I don't know if I can, if it matters or not. I was thinking about doing the outer row next, so that I wouldn't have the black in there. But I think we'll just, by the time I get it mixed up and get this herded up, you know, I could even probably come in here and maybe suck up a little bit of that extra with the paper towel. Am I using Bounty? I don't think so. But we can suck up a little bit of that extra resin like that. And again, working with, this is the Chromacraft 2000 LV, has a long open time. Got about 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours. Can you imagine if you were trying to do this with Alumilite fast or even Alumilite slow? I mean, you'd already have to be in the pot. So I love working with the slow resin. I mean, you have to, you know, figure out how to work with it. But it gives you all this time to work with things that are different and might be a little complicated. But you have the latitude that I can sit here and work on this, and I don't have to worry about it setting up. It doesn't have to go into the pot until we're done here today. Okay? So everything has its pros and cons. And if you really want something fast, then the fast setting resin, sure, that's going to get you in and out of the pot in 4 hours, something like that. It's not really cured. Matter of fact, I'm gonna talk about that right now while I'm letting this soak in. Make sure I'm on the right camera. All resins shrink to some degree, all right? And they don't cure. They're not fully cured when they're done. And this piece is from, I don't know if you remember when I had this bowl right here. This one, the maple piece with the black and gold resin all over it. So this was the excess from that. And it has actually gotten, even though it won't fall out because of the tenon built in here. And I don't know if you can see this. Let me go to the overhead. It has shrunk in this plastic container. So you can see how it moves there. I haven't done anything to loosen that. So that's how much that resin has. You can see it moving there. The resin has shrunk, and it's about, I was looking at Alumilite and epoxy resins and shrinkage stuff this morning while I was drinking my coffee. About 5/1000ths, given depending on the size and how you cured it. If you cured it with heat or if you cured it just at room temperature, it will shrink. And so you would think, well, 5/1000ths of a volume might not be that much, but it's surprising. The polyester shrinks even more. This is epoxy, and I don't have a percentage rate off the top of my head because I didn't find one this morning. I have seen polyester put into rosewood, which is really oily wood, and it doesn't bond to the oily woods, and it shrinks dramatically. When you do polyester inlays, you have to be careful that it doesn't shrink too much and pop loose. The epoxy will grab a hold and bond really well, but still, all these shrink. And this has been, what, a month and a half since I did this? And it finally shows the movement after that much time. So the curing actually takes a pretty good while for the piece to finally stop moving. Put that back over here. Okay. We're going to let that sit. It's time to mix up our white band. All right. Let's see if there's any questions over here. White. So I have white polyester spin gems, faux stone, and I have some white satin pearlescent powder, and then I have white pigment. And we're going to do another batch of the white satin and the white stones to put in our groove. We know this time that we're going to use our syringe to apply the resin, inject the resin. This groove is really small, so we sure don't need too much. All right. And this is a pearlescent, white pearlescent powder, satin white pearl powder. Now, technically speaking, it needs a black to bounce off of, so I'm not sure if it's going to do exactly what I have in mind, but it certainly can't hurt to have it in there. So I'll mix that up. Come on there. Here. We'll get that mixed up. And I don't know if you can see the shimmering in here in the white. A little bit of shimmer to it. I think I might put a little more pearl powder in there. And I may need more stone. That might not be enough. Let me put a little more pearl powder in there. I could have gotten my little silver spoon out, I know, but I didn't. Okay. So time to go back and drop this in. Get that centered up there now. Be a little more careful because I don't really want to get the white over to the... I keep my head out of the way. I don't want to get the white into the black. And I can see the shimmer in the white from the satin pearl powder. And we're going to mix white resin. And inject it slowly. Slowly, he says. With the syringe. Now, the overall concept that I have in my head, when this is all done, is we'll see the colors in the wood, the natural spalting that's up here on the planet, and then there'll be highlights of it coming through in the rings, so that we haven't just completely vacated the wood. We don't want to just leave the wood alone. I want the wood to travel out, some of the characteristics of the wood travel out to the very outer edge. And this very outer band will get turned away to a point, if you will. Right now it's about, almost a half an inch thick out there. Well, that I'm going to turn away, and so the very outer band, will get turned away to just a very thin edge. So we'll have the black, the white, the brown, and then the natural wood again at the very edge. And so we'll see all our little lines of the wood coming through. So the wood's nature will flow from the very top of the rim of the bowl all the way through the piece, showing up and disappearing, showing up, disappearing, and showing up again at the very end. Because it is wood turning, and the wood is important. We don't want to forget that. I could have made this thing completely out of resin. I could have I can do the rings completely out of resin, if you want. But in this particular one, I wanted to have the wood in there to have that look. There's plenty of resin projects to do. And this was such a neat piece of wood that I didn't want to not show it. I think I'm going to need some more white. May have to mix up some more, but we got plenty. Stay out of the black. I don't know if my little silver spoon is readily available here or not. The guy who keeps this place organized for me, I think the spoon may be too small. Doesn't always make things easy to find. Let's see what this does. Somewhere in between my fingers and this little spoon is a good place. That's a little slow. Again, the beauty of the slow resin is I can take this time and do this. I'm going to make a little bit more of this up, just because it's getting hard to get a hold of it. So I'm going to put a little bit more in my container over here. This will all go into a hodgepodge of goodies in that last pour of the day. There we go. Give it a quick mix. Good morning, Glenn. Thanks for stopping by. Having a lot of fun. Making not too much of a mess. Okay. Back to, I know this part's not real exciting, but we've got to do it. Fill in our white band on our Ringed Saturn Bowl. Now I can see down in the groove. You haven't seen the side camera. Let's see the shop a mess now. Let's go to that. Down in the side, I can see a little bit of the black ran down the color of the pigment. Even though I sealed this wood, it has run down in there. So, oh well. Again, I sealed it. I guess I didn't seal it as much as I thought I had. I put one coat on and then I ran out. Probably should have put 2 coats of sealer on it. We live and learn. You can also see our gel resin fill there on the side now with the side shot going at you. And this crack right here, I filled that last night with super glue from the bottom. So what resin goes in will not run out. Get in there. Just about there. Okay. So we'll set this over here with the black. We'll set it over here. I'll go back over to the overhead for you. And we'll just kind of get this herded up a little bit. Now that we have it all in there. And try and even it out. Again, this time we're going to use the syringe from the start. And avoid that initial melee that ensued from pouring the resin. And I'm thinking, I've changed the overhead camera angle, and I don't. When I look up, I'm trying to get my head out of the overhead shots for you. And when I look back at the replays, I see that half the time you were seeing the top of my head, which, I mean, I'm happy to have hair, but you don't want to see it, not really. And I've changed the way the camera shoots at this, and you don't seem to be seeing my head, which is good. All right. I can't wait to let this cure and then turn it and see what this is going to look like. And once I turn it, if I want to dye the exposed wood with just a dye, I can. Because we'll have turned it away to fresh wood. Okay. So much for that. Let's let that sit right there. And there we go. Let's mix up some white resin. Time for a little white resin. How am I doing on time? 11:15. We're all good. All good. Again, we don't need much resin. Back off to the side. White pigment. So I've managed to go ahead and get resin and all kinds of stuff on my turning jacket here. These are nice. They breathe. They're really nice. I've got black bodies with the red sleeves like I'm wearing here, and I've also got red bodies with black sleeves. Y'all need one, jump in the store and grab one. They're pretty cool, I think. Now the white, it takes a fair bit of white pigment, so let me switch to the overhead for you. EQ up, overhead, and go boom. It takes a fair bit of white, and I want this to be fairly opaque, so I'm not holding back on the white resin, or white pigment, and we'll put a little bit of, there's a little bit of shimmer on that. But I wanted a nice opaque white. Mix that up really good. And then we'll sucker up into our syringe, and hopefully I got enough of the black out that I don't taint it. If I get a little streak, well, that's okay. We're trying to emulate dust particles, I believe it is, on Saturn. Okay. Good morning, Erica. And Lorianne. Good to see y'all. Thank you for stopping by. Lorianne, I hope your package arrives today. I haven't checked the tracking on that. It should be. Okay, so time to suck up the white resin. Got ourselves a nice package of it there. Let's put the cap back on that so we don't spill it. Now, with the finest of control, I will begin to add the white resin. And as I'm learning a little bit at first, I may make a couple of laps. Let's see if we can't get better at this, you know. We're supposed to get better as we go. See if I can't stay more controlled. Do half and then I'll turn it around. Oh, get over there. I was afraid of that. Do the other half now, and then we'll come back to the other side. This is a much better way than pouring it. So just for information's sake, this is a 10 milliliter syringe, and it took 10 milliliters to make one lap. And I can see that I'm picking that up with my finger. I have a little bit more finer powders in the white stones. Okay, and we'll come back over here again. So it takes a little bit longer, obviously, but much more controlled than when I was just pouring it in there. This is doing much closer to what I want. Not perfect. Nothing's perfect. We're talking about pouring resin and stuff. I think this will make a nice white ring, Saturn ring. I'll just keep kind of working my way around here, looking for the dry spots. And I see that I'm going to have to go over there and clean up some overflow. We had to do that before. All right, so we'll set that back in here. Let's go clean this up, see if we can get it to come back up in here without making a big mess. We'll go around it. Get that up in there. That's where I touched it with my finger and it lifted the whole thing up before. There we go. So it doesn't take very much resin. It's even less than I expected. We'll get that to flow in there, that little spot. All right. Now we're pretty dry right there, but let's clean this mess up over here a little bit. We have more than we need right in there. Keep that row clean. Time for a fresh paper towel. Looking at what you're seeing, I go, it looks like I'm not sure if I'm making a cake or what I'm up to. And I can see some areas in the black that are going to need some more resin as it's soaked into the wood. Again, like I said, even though I've put sealer on it. So that's why I am so happy to be using this slow set, because I can let this soak in and we've got time. And we can come back and adjust it. If it had been a fast setting resin, you would have it in the pot and you would have no idea that it had soaked in. And then you'd have to come back and do it all, add some more after the fact, which wouldn't be as good. Got another dose of white here into the syringe. They're looking a little dry right in there. Fill that up. So I was talking about the woodworking shows earlier, and I was thinking to myself as I got up this morning, no, this is not too much information, that I fly home every Sunday night. I get in about 2 a.m. From the woodworking shows. I get in about 2 o'clock in the morning. Last flight comes out of Atlanta at 10, gets me into Savannah at 11:45, something like that. And then I drive home. I get home about 2. I am going to make every attempt, with the exception of probably the first weekend, the first week, first Monday in January. I'm going to attempt to be out here every Monday before I go to sleep. Actually, I'll go to sleep a little bit. But I plan to keep Monday Methods going right on through the show season. That's not a 100% ironclad guaranteed promise, but that's my goal. I had thought about pre-recording a bunch of them, and I thought, no, that's not quite the same, because if you have a question, like I'm looking over here to check on, you can't ask me any questions, and it wouldn't be real time. I'd love to talk about the last week's show and the next week's show, so I'm going to make every attempt that I can to get out here on Monday mornings at 10. I got to do a bunch of work on Mondays anyway, and be out here for you, because it's good content. I'm having fun. I think you're enjoying it. So I'm going to keep on trying to do my Monday Methods all through the woodworking shows. Now this is looking pretty full. This looks a little dry right here. I'm going to put a little more shot right in there. And a little bit more right in through here. And then we'll mix up our next batch, which will be our kind of our brownish, light brown, taupish color. A lot of issues in there. That's dry right there. I need to get that a little bit wetter. Get some resin down in that spot right there. I don't know why it didn't. I know, because the powder was really fine right there. Okay. So we're going to let that sit. I'll clean out my syringe again over here in my alcohol. And you can get a lot of mileage out of it. I used to use the syringes when I was building boats. I was a boat builder building inflatable boats, and I mixed all my urethane adhesive with syringes, and I got miles and miles and miles out of them. The only thing that happens is a little plunger, the rubber plunger, eventually swells up. and gives up the ghost. Okay, so the next color is going to be the outer band, kind of a taupey color, taupey brown I've got in mind. So I have some red oxide. Yeah, red oxide spin gem. And I have some rose red pearl powder. And I'll switch over to the overhead here in a sec. And the brown oxide or the red oxide. Probably go, I don't know. They're both really similar. I'll go to the overhead for you here. These are both really similar. That one's a little more, this one's pretty dark. So I'm thinking more on this one here. Let's go with that. Put this off to the side. See the color of the spin gem. So let's get ourselves a mixing cup for this. Maybe a Keurig behind me. Oh, for coffee berry? Yeah. All right, here we go. Don't need that yet. Red oxide. Granules. Again, it's a small ring. We don't need a lot. Of course, I said that with the white. I needed more. And see, it's going to be interesting because once I turn the resin down, then I have the option to dye the wood, which won't hide the wood. Let me get this herded up here. I can dye the bands, the wood bands, an appropriate transitional color. So this project has a lot of potential for a lot of different things and to be fun. All right, that's probably enough. Famous last words. This rose red. There we go. Got a knife. Very similar in color to the gemstone, spin gem, faux gemstone. And that was smoke. This is it's called smoke, but it's got this is bronze, excuse me. I want to put a little bit of the bronze in this as well for this outer band. I got some smoke around here somewhere. Smoke pearlescent powder. Okay. Give it a mix. Notice I didn't put any glitter in either of these two. The glitter's only in the black band. So we give this a stir. You know, I'm going to mix a little bit more as I remember last time, and that's farther around. So I'm going to mix up a little bit more so that I certainly don't run out. I have lots. And a little more rose red. There we go. And a little more bronze. It's just so much fun doing this. I'm having a ball. Okay, give that a stir. Now we have, I'm trying to visualize. I started to put a NASA 6-minute video on for the opener this morning of Saturn, all these different shots of it. Then I thought, well, no, I might be setting the expectation too high of trying to match that, and that's not really what I'm not trying to match it. I'm just trying to be similar with artistic license because I can't match it. That wouldn't be. It's not the point in the first place. Okay, so we have our rose now, and go back to the overhead. Let me check any questions. Yep, he says coffee. Let me switch back over to the overhead for you. And we'll make the pass around this thing once again. I see I need to do a little bit of cleanup on the white here, so let me get a paper towel like I did the last time and absorb some of this that's being a little difficult. I'll just go along slowly and let the paper towel kind of absorb some of that. When acorns hit the roof here, I don't know if you guys could hear that. It can actually scare you. It's pretty loud sometimes. Don't pull on the stones, Bradley. Okay, how's everything looking? Looking pretty good. So if you can see, I don't know if you can, right here, it's not zoomed in enough. The resin, there's this split, and I remember I said I sealed the split from the bottom. So that resin, the white resin, is run through that band, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But I can see the resin, and white and the black, running in this crack. So I probably, in hindsight, should have sealed that all the way through, but we'll be okay. No harm, no foul there. Okay, I'm happy with that. So again, it's back to the fingers. Seems to be about the best method for dropping this in. It's interesting in looking at spacecraft explorer pictures of Saturn. It really depends on the light and how it was being hitting the planet and the rings as to what they look like in colors and all that. So there's a lot of room for interpretation in that regard. I like this color too. This is nice with the shimmer, the rose red in here. Get out of there. Stay in the groove. And I'll just sweep all this off the table and put it in my mix of the excess resin. Gonna make a funny piece. I gotta cast up a bunch of pieces for the woodworking shows. For turning out there, I'll be casting and turning resin, and stabilizing as well, and taking the vacuum chamber and a vacuum pump. Just doing all kinds of fun things out on the road this year. Like I say, you know, when I'm humming, I'm having fun. I'm really looking forward to turning these away and seeing what that looks like. And I have to do the whole same thing to the bottom too. Now I'm not gonna do an episode out here. I'll just do that this week. But we have the same thing to do on the bottom, because I have the bands on the bottom as well. And so I'll remember what I did here, and I'll do the bottom, and then I'll get this thing turned and finished one of these days. Don't ask me when it will be done, because I'm a little slow on the finishing of things. Other things seem to get my attention. Almost all the way around. So the rose red pearl powder is kind of sticking to my fingers in the wood, but that's all right. It won't hurt anything. So I have enough stone everywhere now. I've made it all the way around. Or right there. It's a little thin in that spot right in there. Oops. Okay. Little void right there. Put that back in. All right. I think we're just about good to go. So, next thing to do is mix up our resin batch for this color. Another cup. Oh, and looks like I'm going to have to get some more. That's when I should have had the glove on. The powder on the table. The rose red powder, I just now have a rose red hand. Okay. A little more resin. Again, we don't need a lot. There we go. Working from our well. And our pigment. Give it a good shake. Put my glasses back on. Beautiful day gosh, the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday here, especially Friday, Saturday, was 45 and rainy and nasty. Not good for working out in the shops or anything. And we can go ahead and use that stick because that's the color that we're working with. So we'll mix this up. Switch over to here. Boom, boom. So this is a pretty close color match to our stone, which is what I was after. There we go. How am I doing on time? 7:37, we're all good. We're all good. Might not get to some of the other little projects I had in mind, but that's all right. We do what we got to do. Pull this back into the middle, and one more lap around. Sucker up into the syringe. Nice batch. Don't you like those fingers? Yeah, I know. Gloves. The ones laying over here on the table. Okay. Ready to go. In we go. I'll go halfway around. Go ahead and turn it, I think. I try a different way each time. Now there's not a lot of, this is a little bit translucent in this outer one, this color, and that's okay. And in this one, when I turn it away, you're going to see the side of it. When I turn the very outer perimeter off of this, down to a point. Keep right on going. You can see I didn't have too much coffee because I'm fairly steady there, Barry. Not shaking too much. Too much coffee. Give you the jitters, you can't steer your syringe. That would be bad. I can't just reach over here instead of having to spin this. I feel like a cake decorator. But this is working well for what I'm trying to accomplish. And now let's stop and see where she starts to flood out. We'll let that kind of start to flow just a little bit. I can see I need a little bit more in here. Again, the syringe, it gives me great control. So I can just come back and strategically put a little bit where I need it and not have a huge mess. Now, I'm fairly proud, not personally proud, but I mean, the stone is sticking up above the rim on this outer rim a good bit. And I know that if I rub it with my finger right off, it's going to just pull it out of the groove. So it looks like I actually got a little overzealous with the stone in this groove. And I'm looking at the black, and I see that I'm going to go back, after I get this round done, I'm going to go back and put some more resin in the black. Now that it's soaked in. The same thing with the white. I see some places that can use a little bit more. So I'm just kind of very lightly drizzling this in now. Okay. Right in there. All right. So I can see right in, especially right in here, the black looks fairly dry. So let me give it just a couple more squirts before I clean out this syringe. And that red there that's bleeding onto the white is not the greatest thing I had in mind, but I know that it'll get turned away, so hopefully it won't be an issue. If not, it's just a little bit of brown dust blew over to the white ring on Saturn. Let's look at it that way. Okay, fresh paper towel. This kind of looked like a cake in ways. Black. Back to the black. Go back in black. Looks like we want a little more. Let's pull this guy up. Now that that's well saturated, this should, famous last words, flow a little better. I could be making a huge mess. Who knows? Because the last thing, what I don't want is a void that I had to come back and fill. You could. So it's a fine line between too much and not enough. Like right in there I can see the edge, so I want that resin to fill up that channel that I had turned. And if I spill over a little bit now, I'm not terribly concerned. I mean, I don't want to, but if I spill out onto the black, the colors are in place, and as long as it doesn't go all the way over and blend with it, I'm not going to complain. Okay. Now that looks much better. Filling that, adding to that black band. A little bit of resin. So when you tackle one of these, be sure when you mix your resin, mix a little bit of each color, a little bit more than you think you're going to need, like I've done here, so that you can come back and add more resin to it and top it off, so to speak. And that black is looking pretty good now, so I'm going to clean that out. And then we'll go to the white. Now I know I'm pushing my luck, going from black to white and back and forth with my syringe. But it looks like so far I'm doing okay. I'm not having any trouble with contamination. I see a little bit right in that might give me trouble right there. But at worst it will be a little black swirl. Okay? So another load of white in here. We're just about done with what we can do on this, and then we're going to mix up before we finish. We're going to put all this together into that mold over there and come up with a crazy looking concoction. All right, throw that one away. I'll go back to the overhead for you. Barry says insert C. Oops, wrong thing, Bradley. Not sure what insert C means, Barry. If you can clarify that. Should I be holding my cutters? Should me holding my cutters? Gotcha. Okay. Fill in this white again a little bit. We need some right in here. I need to get some more. So a little bit of black came out right there. Ooh, big mess. Don't make a bigger mess trying to stop the mess you made. A little bit of black came out into that, but that's okay. Not the end of the world. Let's see. Let's try this. That's better. All right, a little more white. Just a little bit. I almost didn't make enough. Turn it on its side, I get some more. Almost didn't quite make enough white resin. Looks like I have just enough. Get that filled. If I can see the edges of the turned cove or band, if you will, then it needs a little more resin. Okay. In some places I can. So you want to fill it without overfilling. That's what I say. It's right. It's that fine line. Okay, that looks good. All right. All right. Right in here. And then I'll come back and do the one more pass on the red. And we will be done with this little project for today. And when I wrap up here in 15 minutes or so, I'll go put it in the pressure pot and let her cook. I'll just leave it in there for 24 hours at 70 pounds. And I'll stick this other little guy that we're going to do in here as well. All right, bring up some red. That's really brown, not really red. Coffee reference, gotcha. It's a little heavy on the plunger there, Bradley. In that spot. Hopefully it won't be the end of the world. Just a touch right there. It's right on that fine line now of you go from not quite enough to just a little bit too much. Okay. I'm going to say that's good. So we're going to leave that right there. Okay. Good deal. We're all filled here. And I think it's ready to roll. So I'm going to set it off to the side because the clock is ticking here. It's about 10 minutes to 12. We're going to just set this off to the side, and I'll take it over and put it in the pressure pot when I get done. So I'll just set this over here out of the way. Now let's grab our cup that I had sprayed earlier. That would be this one. We're just gonna. I don't have enough resin to fill it, but I'm gonna go ahead and just. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna add those. I'm gonna add these components to this. So I'm gonna pour this full of all the clear. There's not that much, and I don't want to mix more. But this will be a good little piece for on the mini lathe at the woodworking shows. Just a little something to turn with the Easy Wood Tools negative rate cutters. Doesn't take much to have something. You can make a little spinning top out of this pretty easy. All right. Set that off to the side. Now I'm going to just pour in the different stones. And where's my black? There's my black. Let's see, you're seeing that from out front. And then I'm going to bring my brown resin in from this side. Keep all this herded up. There's not much white resin. Little teeny bit, so we're going to give it a drizzle. And then we'll put in the black, and then I'm going to add quite a bit of pearl powder. I'm going to pour the black around the outer edge. So we're going to give it just as light a swirl as possible. Now I could have mixed the pearl powder in to any one of the colors at first, but I just decided not to. I want to go with where's the silver? I have some silver pearl powder. So this is going to get a bunch of silver. Because the silver generally, I could be wrong in this case, shows up pretty well against the other colors. There's the silver. And let's put a little satin white in with it along as well. And then we're just going to take our stick and let's see. I'm going to show you the side camera. That is that. Let's see. That's, I don't know if you can see that as well or not. It looks like you can see better on the front camera. My bad. Oh no. Now that I see it up there, you can see that. So I'll go back. Never mind me. And just lightly stir this. Now, if I had done this 2 hours ago, the colors would all blend together. But because I know that this is it's pushing its 2 hour window of open time, so it's going to start to have its thermal reaction and start to set up. So I know that the colors will stay blended. And let me go see the overhead. You can't see it much. None of the cameras are zoomed in real close. But I want to get the stones down to the bottom. There we go. And let me go to, I went to the front. And again, I don't know if you can see this. It's fairly dark, but I see the silver strands in it, and I see the stones in it. Okay. Just want to get those pearl powders to mix right there. It's an interesting, odd blend. And if you're looking at it close, it's actually pretty interesting. I'm looking at what you're seeing, and you can't see the figure in it, if you will. But it's kind of cool. It's kind of burgundy and white. And then with the stones, and then the silver highlights around in it. So that's kind of cool. That takes care of my excess resin. Nothing fancy, but it does the job. When I walk over here, I'll hold this right up to the camera, and then I'm going to set it on the floor. And then I will show you one more thing that I wanted to show you today. Let's see if this will keep in focus. So you can see how we got our kind of our blend in there. It's a different mix, but that's all right. Okay, how's that for a close shot? Let me come back around. On the piece that I did a couple of weeks, or last week, I think it was last week, with the hollow roller, the Carter Products hollow roller. So this is that piece, and I had put some dye on it, and it's an end grain piece. And I don't know if you remember, if you were here, when I started to spray some lacquer on it, it just went in like a sponge. So yesterday, on the right half here, the left half has tape to remind me which is which. On the right half, I went in and sealed the end grain, and this is a test to see, because it was super porous. I used the urethane, the water-reducible urethane, which will seal the fibers, but it didn't affect the finish. And so I want to see now, when I spray some lacquer on here again, how much difference there is between A and B. So the best way I can show you this looks like it's going to be in the overhead. And I wish I could reach up there and zoom that in for you, because I don't have any light coming on. Why is that light not on, Brad? Got to light this out. So shake the lacquer up real good. I'm getting a ton of light from the north side window here. So let's see. So it's still sucking in quite a bit of material, but it's doing better than it did before. So I bet you if I go to the side camera, yeah, so let me change over here for you. Do that. And you can see that I'm spraying this pretty heavy. That I'm actually getting the film to build anyway. Don't worry about those runs. This needs to be sanded still. So that's the side that I sealed. I'll get it over here in the daylight. All right. Now on the side that I didn't seal, which the color still looks the same, I'll bet you that all we're going to get is some build on the spalt lines. And that's all we're going to get. So what's my point? Well, the point being that a little bit of water-based sealer goes a long way instead of having to spray all this lacquer. All right? So let's go back up to the up front. You can see the cloud and all that good stuff in here. So my point being, you can go ahead and after you have dyed a piece, this is with the aniline dye, the alcohol-based aniline dye, go ahead and seal it, especially if it's end grain, or you can seal any piece even if it's not end grain, and you're going to use much less of your finish, let's say it's lacquer, and all the fumes and all that. So you can seal with a water-based sealer. You could probably do it with sanding sealer as well. This urethane does build a better film, and it really seals it up pretty good. That's not too bad, all things considered. So just something to think about. And I'm not saying you have to use that, but I'd like it if you did. Seal that up after you put your color on, before you put your clears on. Before you put your finish on, you save yourself a whole bunch of finish and a whole bunch of toxic chemicals and fumes and all that good stuff. Pretty neat. I'm just getting blasted here this morning by the sun as the season has changed. I never had the sun come in this window before. So this is the first time I'm getting that nice natural northern light. And it looks like it's 11:59, which means, believe it or not, I have finished on time. I started a little late this morning because YouTube wouldn't come up. But I'm finishing wrapping up right on time. I'm going to check for, let's see, what's Art asking? How come you didn't save the stone for the bottom? Save the stone for the bottom. Oh, because I got more. I don't know when I get back out here. I would have knocked it over, spilled it or something, Art. So I just decided to go ahead and put it in there since I already had it mixed up. Use it up. I've got all the stuff right here. Nothing's going to change between now and when I do that. I really appreciate everybody coming out today and hanging out. I know I had a good time. Let me see if I missed any questions up through here. Lorianne says package should be here today. Thanks for saying it. Looking forward. You're welcome very much. Thank you. Thank you, Mary Alice, for liking the video. I really do appreciate all you folks coming out here and joining me every Monday. I'm having a ball. Again, I think this feed is better today. I was maxing out the CPUs, what it was on this little computer. And I did some overhauling to the setup on the computer, and I've changed some things. And I'm running a second computer, so I'm watching the other screen on the second computer. Gave me a little bit more headroom in the processor, and that's a cool thing. It's a work in progress getting these figured out. So with that, and it's noon and it's lunchtime. My wife will be home from Florida here in the next hour or so, I hope, and we're gonna go have lunch. I thank everybody again. I see you next Monday. Don't know what I'm up to. You know how it goes. I'll figure it out on Saturday. Thank you very much. Have a great day.